So I've been working with the Educational Outreach Department of the Library of Congress for about a year now. I started last March 26th, but I won't go into all the details about that, except to say that those people, it's not a real big crew, but those people at the Library of Congress really, really do a lot of projects to support teachers. And they have released 2 tools in the last year, and I want to tell you about those 2 tools. They are the Interactive Primary Source Analysis tool and the Search by Standards, which isn't really a new tool, but it's really updated. It's updated for the Common Core. So that's what I'm going to talk about. But how do I find out this stuff? I find out this stuff because I follow their blog. And I've got the blog address here at the bottom of the screen, blogs.loc.gov, and the one for teachers, because there are a bunch of others, ends with teachers. This is where they announce all of their kind of ready for prime time services and tools that they have. Their blog is called Teaching with the Library of Congress, and I highly recommend it. So that's where I learned about the Interactive Primary Source Analysis tool. And I'm going to show you how to get to it. Okay, this isn't it. This is the teacher's page. So I usually start at the teacher's page. So I'm going to tell you the hard way to get to this tool first, and then I'm going to tell you the Google way to get to this tool, okay? So step 1, I'd start with the teacher's page, which is just the loc.gov/teachers. That'll get you to the teacher's page. And that menu box on the left there with the arrow to it looks like this. Obviously, using an analysis tool is using primary sources. So from there, you click on Using Primary Sources, and then the next screen gets you to, I'm not aiming this right? Teacher's Guides and Analysis tool, okay? Don't talk to me about that apostrophe, that bothers me too. So you click on that analysis guide, and then you get to this screen. And it shows you 2 options. This isn't one, okay? It's actually 2. The first one is the interactive one, the one your kids can fill out online on their computers. Depends on your access, you know. The second one is a printable PDF version of the analysis tool. So I'd click on that first one, and this is what it looks like. Check it out. 3 boxes, actually 4 boxes, 3 of the same size, 1 long, narrow one. So that's the hard way. That was a bunch of steps, right? Here's an easier way. Just go to loc.gov and enter Primary Source Analysis Tool. But here's the way I think you'll do it. Go to Google and type in Primary Source Analysis Tool, Library of Congress, and you'll get it every time. So it's like a guy that works at the Library of Congress told me, he said, you know, this tool might move around on the site, but search is forever. And the cool thing about this tool is you can share it. So once you find it, you can share it with yourself. You know, you can email it to yourself. You can share it via a bunch of different ways using social media. So whatever your social media tool of the day is, you've got a few choices. And you'll notice right next to this, the tab right next to share is email. So you can also email this tool to yourself, to your colleagues, to your department chair, to your librarian, to whomever, okay? So lots of ways to share it. So let's go back to the tool. Who's using this tool? Well, way more people than I thought, because I wrote to the same person who gave me the quote for Search is Forever. I said, who's using it? And he says, in our professional development and in workshops across the country. This is an aside, by the way, but I just learned this. This TPS program is big. I mean, this looks like a big conference, right? Pretty big. But this TPS program gives 800 workshops a year across the country. Ours are the best. Anyway, he told me teachers of all subjects are using this tool, all grade levels, K through 12 and beyond. It launched in July of 2012, so it's not even a year old. And he says that since then, the interactive version of this tool has been used tens of thousands of times. That's a lot of kids using this analysis tool. So, and the library estimates that out of those tens of thousands, about a quarter of those are actually printing or downloading or emailing their final results for assessments or whatever, okay? It's pretty easy to use. This is kind of cool. You select the format of the primary source that you're looking at or that you're using. And the cool thing about it is the questions, see the question mark here? I know the observe box is blocked out by the format drop-down, but the questions change to reflect the type of primary source. For example, you might have the question, what is the physical setting? Well, that would be for a photograph. Or the question, what other details can you hear? That would be for a sound recording. So the questions change according to the type of primary source that you use. Now, there are questions that the students can use for guidance. And this is what they look like. You just click on the question mark, or the students do, and see, there are prompts. Now, I know this goes a little bit against what we're learning today, which is having the students ask the questions. So I am really interested to see how this might merge someday into our newest way of thinking about students asking questions. But the teachers react pretty well to this idea of having some guiding questions. So you click on the question mark and describe what you see. That's the first one that comes up, and there's 7 more. So you have a primary source, right? See that picture that just got handed out? All right, we don't have nearly enough time to go through an entire analysis, but I would like you to turn to your neighbor, and I'll give you exactly 1 minute to tell your neighbor everything you see in that picture. Go. Just out of curiosity, I just found this picture not too long ago, and I think it's fabulous for Colorado history and for talking about women's suffrage, but does anybody notice anything odd about this picture? I'm going to leave it at that because I have no time for your questions. The next box is reflect. Now, picture this. As you were doing that, and if you were a student, you would have at least one student at the computer, and they would be madly typing in all your observations, all right, in the observe box. And then you go to the reflect box. Now, you don't have to do these in order, but the reflect box is really about deeper questioning. So it's harder questions like, why do you think this image was made? Or who do you think was the audience for this billboard? Or what's missing? Or whose story isn't represented? So a lot deeper questions and more inference kinds of questions. And then there's a third box called question. And that really is it's the box that leads kids from their early analysis to their thinking about the source to their wondering about the source. Okay, so there are steps through this process. And then the further investigation link, there's the reflect one example. Where do you think this came from? And this is a filled in form. So imagine that as you were talking, your students were typing in the answers that they had or the observations that they made. So this finished form isn't ready quite yet because you have output options. Look at the bottom right. Download, print, or email. Can you see that from the back? No way could I be sitting back there. If I click on download, I get a little form to fill out at the top. So I can copy and paste the title of the primary source. I can copy and paste the URL of the primary source, put in my name, my school, my class, whatever. And then if I click on to submit that, or I click download, this is the finished product. So you see, this could be handed in to the teacher as an assessment. You also have the option of having your students email it to you or email it to whatever system you have in place in your school. And that's a little different form. So obviously, you have to input an email address to email it to somebody. Okay? So that's that. How would you use this teaching tool in your situation? All right, moving on to search by standards. Going to go to the home page again, the teacher's page. Sorry, not the home page, but the teacher page. Remember the URL? loc.gov/teachers. Do you see that little line above the pictures? Search our classroom materials by standards. This has been updated to include the Common Core, and it's kind of a cool thing. What it does is it searches all of the classroom materials from the Library of Congress teachers page. So that includes 5 different things. Primary source sets, those wonderful sets that are pre-selected for you on a certain topic. Lesson plans. Presentations, which are like more media-rich presentations and activities, and finally something called collection connections, which is really great for a higher level kid, your AP kids, for example, because it gives a lot more historical context for each of the items. So if I were to search on my state standards, I just click State Content, Colorado, and I can pick my subject and my grade level, and if I search on it, what comes up is all of the standards, and this is a screenshot, otherwise it would scroll, you know, all the standards of that particular grade level. And off on the right here, you see 291 classroom materials, all in the Library of Congress teacher stuff. And you see what I said, those 5 different types of classroom materials. Well, if I'm interested in a primary source set, and I clicked on that, I would get this. I would get a list of all the primary source sets that meet that first standard that you saw. 291 classroom materials, 28 primary source sets, blah, blah, blah. But this one, these are the sets, and this is Abraham Lincoln and Baseball Across America, children's lives in the 20th century, and so on. But it's not just about history, you know. I wanted to show you that I collapsed this so you can see that it's history, geography, civics, and the graduate competencies, but you can also search on language arts. And for some states, you can search on library and technology, but most people do that search from the right-hand side, which is organizations. Now, here's a little acronym quiz. It includes NCSS, NSCG, these ring a bell, librarians, AASL, NETS, standards, and NCTE. So those are the national organizations you can search. But the really, really big deal is that they've now added the Common Core connections. And I know that you heard this morning that there are no history standards in Common Core, and I beg to differ. But then I'm not employed by the state of Colorado anymore. Sorry. Actually, the history and social studies standards, and many of you know this, are folded into the English language arts standards, the literacy standards. And they are, if you've looked at them, if you've dug into those at all, they are rich in primary source connections, rich material. So use that. Social studies and history teachers out there, you've got some coverage for your standards and what you want to accomplish with your kids. So don't worry, I'll show you. So I searched on Common Core for high school level, 11th grade, and I found, again, a different set here, 302 classroom materials. This is the same one that our speaker, Stephanie, used this morning, citing specific textual evidence. Okay, this time let's take a look at a lesson that fits that standard. There it is, 1900 America. It looks more like an English lesson to me, but it must meet the Common Core history standard in literacy. So now we know that it meets that first standard because that's what we were looking at, but you know, there's hardly anything in the Library of Congress that doesn't meet multiple standards. So how do you find that out? Well, every lesson, every classroom material at the Library of Congress now, at the bottom of its overview page, just pretend I scroll down, okay, has the same search there. So I can search from within a single classroom material to find out all of the standards that that classroom material meets in the Common Core. So if I wanted to switch to an English language arts search from here, I would find the English standards for that. So you see, If you'd rather find a primary source set first from the teacher's page or a lesson plan first from the teacher's page, you can always find out what standards it meets. That's if you're filling out, important forms for your administrators. Okay, so it doesn't really matter, but you can go backwards or forwards, forwards or backwards. You can start with a resource, end with a standard, or start with a standard, end with a resource. It really doesn't matter, but it all starts and ends right here at the teacher's page. That's it. Whew. Thank you.